Hey guys, Tom Chomiak here, the creator and lead engineer behind the Panoskin platform. I'm here today to introduce you to our newest tool in addition to the Panoskin family, the Panoskin Street View Editor. So for the ambassadors, you should have gotten an email now welcoming you to the community. And what you'll need to do is take the token from your email and go to login.panoskin.com and use your username and one-time token to log in. And after you've done that, you'll be welcomed by a welcome screen to Panoskin. So you'll want to step through this process. Shouldn't be too painful. Now, the second step within the welcome screen is to authorize your account to give Panoskin access to your Google Drive and to be able to publish the Street View on your behalf. So you want to click Authorize for that. And when you do that, you do want to make sure that the account you're authorizing with is the account that you want associated with your published tours to Google Street View. So the third step is where you verify some information, and the account name is the main account name you use for your Panoskin account. So you don't want to change this out to your username. You want to leave this either as the account name that's automatically been created for you or your company name. You want to confirm your first name, last name, and your email, and you'll want to choose a new password. So within the fourth step, we do ask you for your location, and you can either provide your company name or your street address. And the reason we do this is because we are working on some strategic partnerships. We may actually send work your way. So it is in your interest to put in your accurate information here. All right. And one of the last steps is to read through our terms of agreement and to agree to them. And you're ready to roll. So once you've completed the welcome step, you are greeted by the dashboard. And this is just an area to show you how awesome you are. It shows you how many custom tours you've built, how many Google tours you've built, how many tours you've actually published to Street View, and how many scenes you've published. It also gives you some indication as to the number of clients that you have, the number of tours you've created this month, and the number of administrative users that you have. So everything within Panoskin is organized underneath the client. So when you create tours, whether they're custom or Google, all that information is organized under the client level. So one of the first things that you'll need to do is you'll need to create a client within the Panoskin platform. And you can do that by clicking on this little plus icon here. And that'll take you to the Create New Client wizard. And you'll want to enter your client name. And two other controls you have here is the max number of Street View tours and the max number of custom tours. And the reason we have this setting here is because Panoskin uses this to display different analytics for your client when they log in. And what you'll actually be able to do, and you can't do it just yet with the tool, but what you will be able to do is create users for your clients. So they'll be able to log in and they'll be able to view the tours that you've built for them. So whatever you set this setting to, it will control the way their dashboard is displayed. Now you can set this to anything you want. You can set it to 1,000, you can set it to 1,000,000, but one rule of thumb is it's typically good to set the setting to whatever you've pre-sold. If you sold a client 10 tours, you probably want to enter 10 here. If you sold them 1, you probably want to enter 1. And you will have control over this later on as well. So this isn't set in stone. After you've created the client, you will be able to edit this information. So I'm just going to click Add here. Now that you've created your first client, you're ready to get started. And what you'll want to do is you'll want to navigate to this icon over here to the left to view all of your clients. And you can see here the new client that we just created shows up in the list. Now we don't have too many clients in this list, but there are a few other features that I do want to quickly mention. One of those is you'll be able to search for your clients here. So if your list does get very long, you'll be able to search for your client. In addition to that, you'll be able to sort your client list alphabetically and numerically. In addition to that, you can edit your client settings by clicking on the client name, where you can see some of the settings that we set before, alongside some additional settings that you can control, such as account suspension. Also within this view, you can see your street view and custom tours that you have built out for the client. Now we haven't created any yet, so let's get started and create one. To create your first street view tour, you can create this little plus icon for that client, and that'll take you to the Street View Tour wizard. Once here, one of the first things you can do is search for the business name or street address. Once you've done that, you can see it found the place of business on the map within Google Maps. It also pre-populated the title for you, gives you the place ID, the CID if one exists, and you also have the ability to verify the place on Google Maps. Now once you've done that, and you're satisfied with the location that's been found, you click Start Building. And the second part of the process will be to start uploading scenes. And to start doing that, you'll want to create an island first. Now islands are a way of grouping scenes within Panoskin, similar to the way you've grouped islands within Google Maps Editor before. Now once you've created your island, you want to name it. And the way you do that is just by selecting the Enter Name title here and typing in a name for your island. After you've done that, you're ready to start uploading scenes. And the way to do that is just to click the plus icon over here. And then you can either click on the drag and drop and select the files that you want, or you can drag the files onto the upload wizard. Great! Now once your files are done uploading, you have the ability of also renaming them if you so like, by just selecting the title and typing in the name of the scene that you want. In addition to that, you can also click on one of the images to preview the scene that you just uploaded. One also neat feature that our team is working on is a blur tool. So if you click this little blur icon, what it does is it opens up the blur tool. Now it takes a little bit of time for your scene to load because we do prepare it for blurring. But once your scene is loaded into the blur tool, you have the ability of navigating around the scene and also selecting regions to blur. And the way you do that is you select the blur icon and the area of the scene that you want to blur. And once you've done that, as you can see, it does blur that region. Now you also have the option of erasing the blur. You can either do a manual erase where you're selecting the exact region you want to erase, or you can draw a circle around the area and it removes any blurs within that area. Now this tool is still experimental, so we're just showing it here, but it isn't fully ready yet. So when you click Save, you will get an alert that we're still working on the tool. Now our team is working very hard to have it ready by April 5th of next week, but we do have it here so you can play around with it and just see what it works like. Now you do have the option of creating more islands, and there is no limit. To create another island, you just click Add Island and enter the name as we did before. I'm just going to create a few islands here. And you can delete an island by clicking the little X here. Now one thing you may have noticed is that the X here for the main level is actually grayed out. And the reason for that is because you can't delete an island that has scenes in it. You have to first remove the scenes. Now if you do accidentally click the icon to remove an island, you'll see that Panoskin does detect that and it prevents you from deleting the island. Now one other neat thing to mention here is that within each of the islands, you may have noticed this feature here that says Convert Island to Level. Now if you select the checkbox, you can see a little L show up to the island name. And what that does is it tells Panoskin that you want to convert this island to level. Now levels aren't supported by the Google API just yet. But by having this here, you can select which islands you want to be converted into levels, and when Google does open up that portion of their API, you won't have to remoderate the entire tool. All you have to do is republish again, and all your islands will be converted to levels. So before I move forward now, what I'm going to do is just click Save to save my tour. So now we're ready to start moderating. To start moderating, just click Build Tour, and you can see the moderation tool show up. Now all the scenes that you just added and the levels are here to the right. You can toggle between the different islands by using the accordion to the right. You can also preview the scene by clicking on the scene you want to preview. And as you can see, that opens up the preview in the preview pane above. Now you can expand that preview by clicking the expand icon, and you can also compress it back down by clicking the compress icon. Now once you've got a scene that you're happy with and that you want to start with, what you want to do is you want to click the green plus icon. And that'll add it to your staging area or to the main viewer here in the center. Once you have your scene in that area, one of the first things you'll want to do is you'll want to find where you think the true north is for that scene. Once you've done that, you'll want to click Set North. And as you can see to the left here, the constellation was added, and the north itself was also adjusted for that scene. Now the next thing to do is to search for the next scene you want to add by clicking on the preview for the different scenes. And once you've found the scene that you want to add, you click the plus icon for that scene as well. And what that does is it opens up a separate viewer that's superimposed on top of the main viewer. And what you want to do then is navigate within that second scene to more or less the area where you think you're navigating to. And you can use the little toggle option here to change the opacity of the second scene to see if that walkthrough makes sense. If it doesn't, you can adjust it to an opacity where that can be used to center align the two scenes. Once you've done that, you can go back and forth the opacity to see what the walkthrough would look like. Once you're happy, you can click Add. And the new scene has been added for you. And as you can see to the left here, the constellation has been added as well. Now one other thing worth mentioning is as you're building this tour out, you can actually navigate it too. So there is a little full screen icon here that you can click, and that'll open up that tour in full screen. One other neat feature is the ability to control the arrows by using the constellations on the map themselves. So if I were to take this second constellation here that was just added, grab it and move it around, you can see that the arrow itself is also being moved around within the tour. Now once you're happy with where the arrow should be, you'll want to lock that scene in place. And the way to do that is by clicking on the connection itself between the two constellations. And as you can see, the connection now changed to red from blue, indicating that it's been locked. Once two constellations have been locked together in place, if you grab one of them and start moving it, it moves the other around as well. So let's add another scene. Now before I do that, it may be worth mentioning that this green line here in the center of the viewer wherever that line is facing, that's where your next arrow will go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to align the green line to more or less where I want my next arrow. And then I'm going to find the next scene that I want to add and click the plus icon to add it. And then just like I did before, I'm going to align more or less where I want to go. And then use this little toggle to see what the walkthrough would look like. When I'm happy, I click Add. And then repeat the process again. Now another thing worth mentioning is that not only can you move the second scene that you have open here around, you can also move the main viewer around by clicking on any area of the main viewer and moving it around as well. What that allows you to do is also to readjust where you want that arrow to go after you've viewed the second scene. And again, I can click the full screen icon here to take me into the full screen mode and actually walk through the tour that I've just been building out. Now what I'm going to do is just add a few more scenes to build this constellation out further. Now one other cool thing worth mentioning is that you can also use the constellation map to the left to add arrows. So let's say, for example, that I wanted to add an arrow facing back to the doorway over here. I can use my map to just hover over to the constellation that I want to go to, and as you can see, a dotted line appears on the map. And if I'm happy with that path, what I can do is just click on the constellation I want to navigate to, and an arrow gets generated to go there. Now if I'm not happy with these arrows, again I can grab the constellations and move them around to adjust the positioning of the arrows. One thing worth mentioning that currently isn't available within the constellation map that our team is working hard on is the ability to delete the connections within the actual map. Right now you can add connections and you can lock them, but you can't delete them using the Google Map. So our team is working on this, and we are looking to get it done ideally by the end of this week, if not early next week. However, for the time being, if you do want to remove a connection or a scene, the only way of doing that is to remove the scene itself from the accordion here to the left. So if I were to click the little minus icon here, what that would do is it would remove that scene from the main viewer and any connections that have been made to it. So again, although this isn't ideal, it is currently the only way that you can remove the connections, and our team is working on adding that to the Google Map. Now you may have noticed that when I did remove that scene, I was actually on that scene within the main viewer. So what Panoskin did is it calculated what scene I was last connected to and navigated me to that area. One other thing to point out is when I removed the scene from the accordion to the left, it didn't disappear. It was removed from the connected constellations, but is still available to me here on the right. So I can add it to another area later if I like. Now any scenes that you see here to the left will be published to Google Street View. And any scenes that you see here to the right will not be published to Street View. This is denoted by the little link icon you see here within the accordion to the left. If I want to publish any of the scenes that I see here to the right, all I have to do is click the plus green icon to add them to my constellation. You may have also noticed this little L icon here to the left. What this is telling me is it's telling me that this island should be converted into a level. Now again, the Google Street View API doesn't support levels just yet, but this is telling Panoskin that you want this island converted to a level. Another thing worth mentioning is that I can open up the other levels to work on them. Now I haven't added any scenes to the other levels, but had I added them, I would be able to build out a separate constellation for those levels. Another cool thing is the ability to change north on your entire constellation. Let's just say that the north that I currently have set, which is facing this direction, is not the north I wanted. Let's say that the north I wanted should actually be facing this direction. What I can do is I can first lock all of my scenes in my constellation, and then navigate to where I think north should be facing, and using this little icon here, if I select it, it opens up another icon that allows me to change north on the entire constellation. And what I'll now do is I'll start moving the entire constellation until the north-facing red arrow on the current scene is facing north. Once it's facing north, I let go, and the north has been adjusted on all my scenes, and the arrow work has been adjusted as well. So if I navigate to another scene and I click north, you'll see that it's facing the correct direction. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag my entire constellation over to the right, save my tour, and I'm ready to publish. To publish your tour, you'll want to click Publish to Google. And after doing that, you'll want to click Publish. And our panel bots will start to publish your tour to Google. Now this may take some time depending upon your internet speed and connection. Once your tour is done publishing, you have the option of publishing again or unpublishing the entire tour. If you go back to your build step, and if you take a look at the thumbnails in the left accordion, you see that they all have a P next to their index, indicating that they've been published to Google Street View. Now let's say I want to remove one of these scenes from Google Street View. What you'll need to do is navigate to the scene that you want to remove and click the minus icon in the accordion to the left. This will remove the scene from your connected scenes in the accordion on the left, and it will also remove the constellation from the map. What you want to do next is go back to the Publish step and click Publish again. And what that'll do is it'll update all your scenes connections and it will remove the scenes that have been removed. If I go back to my build step, you'll see that the scene that I removed is no longer to the left and it no longer has a P on the index indicating that it's published on Google Street View. If I want to unpublish all my scenes, what I would do is I would go back to the Publish step and click Unpublish. What that'll do is it'll give me a prompt asking me to confirm that I want to unpublish all of my scenes from Street View. If I click OK, our panel bots will start to remove your scenes. Now if I go back to the build step, you'll notice that those P's are no longer showing in the indexes of the thumbnail, indicating that the scenes have been unpublished from Google Street View. Now publishing and unpublishing is almost instantaneous. However, one thing that you will notice is that when you update connections by adding or removing scenes individually, it will take a little time to persist and for those changes to show on Google Street View. Now that I'm done working on my tour, I'm going to save it and exit. This will take me back to my client, showing me all the tours that I've created for the client. You will also see that the current status of the tour is unpublished, indicated by the red icon. Had I not unpublished my tour, the icon would be green. To show that this works, let's go back and republish the tour. Now if I go back to my client list, you'll see that Panoskin tells me this tour is published. And if I go to Google Maps, I can see that the scenes that I just published are there. Now again, the connections themselves do take a little time to show up. So within an hour or so, the connections will start to appear. If they don't, we do recommend you clicking Publish again. And if I go back to my dashboard now, you'll see that I have one published tour with 4 published scenes. And that concludes our introduction to Panoskin. I hope you have as much fun building tours as we do.